This is Electric Universe Size, and today what I wanted to do is recreate an experiment I saw online, and I'm trying to determine, did they reverse the video to create this water whirlpool or an electric vortex in water using positive and negative charge? I've done is actually the first time I've gotten my new lab back together. So I'm starting with a Variac, and I'm going to test out my original power supply, which is a 3000 volt neon power transformer. And let's see here. Let's just make sure we got some juice. So I've got this guy all the way up. I've got the power on. So these are live wires right here. So I should see an arc. There it is. All right, so we've got power. All right, so now what we're gonna do is get a glass of water, and we'll start with regular water, and then perhaps we'll add something like salt to make it more conductive and see, does it start to spin in a vortex on its own? All right, so I got my glass of water. This is just straight tap water, right? And I'm gonna use these nails as my electrodes, and I'm just making sure that they are magnetic. All right, so let's wrap this guy around here. We've got one on one side and one on the other side. I couldn't tell what the guy was using. It just looked like a positive and negative cable that connected to a car battery. So I don't know what he's using, whether that video was real or not, but I have made vortices in liquid before with electric discharge. So what we'll do is try this out first. This is just AC. Let's see here. Let's turn this on and give it a go and see what happens. And nothing. Let's try this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch over to my 10,000 volt power supply, because I don't think 3000 volts is quite enough. Plus, this particular power supply has a limiter built into it. So if it notices that there is a short, it automatically will switch off until power is regenerated inside the transformer. So I'm going to switch over to my higher voltage. All right, so I have hooked up my 10,000 kV power supply. It's a 30 milliamp neon power supply. Let's turn it on. Just make sure we got some juice here. Well, come on. we go. So here's 10,000 volts. Let's see what happens now if we, well, let me arrange the electrodes first and then we'll put it in the water. All right, so using the same nails, let's see if I can position this correctly. Come on. This is fun. There we go. All right, so an electrode on each side. And let's turn the juice on. But I see nothing. I see bubbles forming on the tips of the electrodes, but that is all. Let's just make sure we got some. So when you're discharging an arc, you can definitely see movement in the water. I don't think it's picking up on the camera, but it definitely creates a flow of movement in the water. Also keep in mind this is alternating current right now. I haven't hooked up my rectifier bridge, which I'll do that in a minute to create a positive and negative. So right now with alternating electricity, it's going back and forth. We want to get that positive and negative, I think, so that we can do water splitting. So anyway, let's try that next. All right. I'm gonna hook up my bridge and I'll be right back. All right, so I've got my rectifier bridge hooked up and I'll explain to you how this is all set up. So I've got my variac, which is allowing me to control the voltage output to my power supply. This is just plugged into the wall, and then I have my transformer or my power supply plugged in. This is a 10 kV or 30 milliamp neon power supply. This then runs to the middle of the rectifier bridge. So what happens here is these diodes, these are each 20 kV diodes. These allow energy to travel only in one direction. Generally, this is configured in a square. I just mounted it this way so that I can easily see where the negative and the positive charge is going to come out. So essentially, these two middle poles is where I have my AC power supply connected to. And on this end would be a negative, and this end would be a positive, because the energy is going to be going into these diodes and being forced this direction, meaning I'm going to get positive charge over here coming through this electrode, and then on the other side is going to draw the negative from this side. So since the diodes are only going to allow the electrons to flow this direction, it creates a negative pole and a positive pole. So that's how you convert AC to DC. Or you can flip it from a DC to get AC in the middle. Again, coming from the wall is going to be AC anyway. So what I've got here is my negative, which would turn into your cathode. All right, so I'll put this in the water. Let's try this here. Let's put this down. I'm going to put this guy in here. And then I've got my positive pole, which I already had a screw from, a year or 2 years ago when I was last doing experiments. So I will pop this screw into the water. Let's see here. Let's get the directional right. Well, I want it to, you know what? Maybe I'll just take this off and put that other nail on there, because that seems to rest in there a little bit easier than that screw. All right, so I've got my positive and negative now. Let's go ahead and turn this puppy on and see what happens. and I'm not getting a vortex. Let's I definitely think at this point, based on that video that I just posted, that video is BS. What I think they did was spun up the water, put the electrodes on there, and then reversed the video. That's my opinion here. Now, does electricity move water? Absolutely it does, and I think I can show you this. Let's get a little closer here. Make sure this doesn't fall in, because it wants to. All right, so zoom in here. All right, so one thing that you'll notice right away, this electrode, which is the positive, the anode, this one is the negative, or the cathode, on the left. And you notice that there's a ton of bubbles coming off of the cathode. What it's doing is splitting the water right now. So it's essentially all of the oxygen, as it's splitting through this electrical discharge going through the water, is splitting the H2O to oxygen over here on this left side and hydrogen on the right. So since oxygen would be an air, it's starting to form those oxygen bubbles and coming off of that cathode. All right, so what I could do to try to create a vortex is this. And again, it's not going to be anywhere near dramatic as what that video showed. What happens if we the water starting to spin, but also I lost my charge here. So the water is in fact spinning. I don't think it matters what direction these are. I need to add something to the water so I can see it better. All right, so here's what I found. Found some cerium oxide polishing powder. Essentially like a diamond paste for polishing glass. So what I'll do is, if I can get this thing to stay, oh goodness. All right, what I'm gonna do is just add in a pinch of cerium oxide. Let's readjust these guys a little bit. Put this one on this side. Put this one over here. And let's add some of this powder. Now we can start to see how the current is flowing. And let's try. And when there's an arc, there's definitely turbulence in the water. Let's see if we do both. I want to shorted it out. Here, I'll just let it sit there. I can get the other side to do that too. There we go, I'll try that. Well, this clearly debunks that video. I don't know if the guy was using a car battery or plugging it into the wall. Either way, this is 10,000 volts, so way more than you get out of the wall. And it's not creating a vortex. It is moving water. Doesn't move it nearly as fast when the electrodes are submerged. You don't get much at all. If we put them closer to it. noticing. It appears that the nail is collecting some of the cerium oxide on it. Let's sit here for a minute, see what happens. Yeah, that vortex video is definitely bunk. Well, folks, I think I have proved that video wrong. So if you can recreate it, I'd love to see your experiment, but I don't think you're going to get anywhere near what those videos showed. So watch out for fake videos. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. All right, that's what I have for you today.